Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your favorite wrestling fan here, Eric Rodriguez, every Monday night live after Monday Night RAW to talk about Monday Night RAW. Also review some SmackDown and a couple other, subjects that are worth talking about. Today on this show, we're going to talk about, obviously, as I mentioned before, we're also going to talk about Hulk Hogan's new wrestling venture with Eric Bischoff, and we're also going to talk about WWE's best and worst finishers. So make sure you guys, stay tuned for that. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hopefully you guys are having a great week. Obviously it is Monday. A lot of people, we do dread Monday, but to be brutally honest, Monday, wrestling will always take care of you. We got Monday Night Raw. We got Tuesday nights on NXT. We talk about WWE Evolve, also Dynamite on Wednesdays. Also, we have TNA and Ring of Honor on Thursdays. And then Friday, obviously some Friday Night SmackDown. It's always doubling, for that matter, in terms of being a wrestling fan. So, we have some pretty nice, Also, we had the NBA playoffs heating up. Those who are NBA fans who are watching it, I did watch the Golden State Warriors defeat the Houston Rockets in that Game 7. I thought that was pretty badass. I thought that was pretty cool. I want to see Steph win another ring. I'm sorry. I feel like, a lot of people in terms of throwing in who's the GOAT in the NBA, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, obvious picks, but you can't count out Steph Curry. Steph Curry really is, he changed the game of basketball. He revolutionized the value of having a three-point shooter. He revolutionized people playing small ball, not really dominant by a big man anymore during this during his tenure. Nowadays, I feel like it's kind of heading toward that same that old school basketball with with Jokic and Edwards. You kind of have that big guy in the middle where you kind of need it, but you can't take anything away from Steph Curry. But, this is a wrestling podcast. Let's talk about some professional wrestling. But before we get on into any of that, I just want to remind you guys to go ahead and hit up that tips and donations link. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. Obviously, be active during the chat. Just want to, know what you guys are, your hot takes in terms of the world of professional wrestling, or just something you've been dying to get off your chest here at the GSMC Sports Network. We do value your guys' thoughts, opinions, and and overall your, what you guys want to say about professional wrestling. So make sure you guys participate actively in that chat. This podcast is all about keeping the conversation lively, making sure you guys feel like your voice is part of the mix. So don't be shy. Drop your thoughts inside that chat. And if you really want to make sure you comment, question, or concern, hit up that super chat. If not, always feel welcome to hit up the chat. Don't even worry about obviously give what you can. Obviously your super chats helps us keep the lights on all these amazing podcasts with all these passionate, enthusiastic, charismatic podcasters who have one goal in mind: to make sure you guys consume all the sports content that you guys love so damn much. And guess what? It's absolutely FREE free once you subscribe to the GSMC Sports Network, the GSMC Podcasting Network. So why not throw a couple of shekels, through bones, here and there. We are super grateful for each and every one of you guys who joins us here daily on the GSMC Sports Network. Your support makes all the difference. So let's get this party started. Send in those super chats, those super stickers, because you guys are super awesome, and together we will make sure this is the best wrestling podcast in the world. Actually, there's a lot of great podcasts out there. I'm a huge fan of obviously not going to give out no free shout-outs. What do you think this podcast is made for? What do you think? I'm just kidding, no. But yeah, there's a lot of awesome streamers out there, so make sure you guys, check those, we're a wrestling family. Something that's awesome about professional wrestling is once when you kind of bump into somebody in public, and they're wearing a Seth Rollins shirt, they're wearing Macho Man Randy Savage, you automatically just kind of feel like you're a part of the family. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty badass to be a wrestling fan, and this fandom is we're family. So 1,010%. Make sure you guys drop your comment, question, or concern inside that chat. And without further ado, we're gonna talk about some WWE Monday Night Raw. Obviously, it just got done airing on the East Coast, now on the West Coast. If you're not subscribed to Netflix, if you are, YouTube TV. Well, actually, I don't even know. No, it's not the USA Network. I lied about that. But if you're watching it now on Netflix, obviously, spoiler alert. I already watched it. First and foremost, we have Jey Uso come out and call out Logan Paul. Automatically just shut down. We had Paul Heyman come out, ladies and gentlemen, My name is Paul Heyman. And, it just kind of makes me feel like, and I know, on this podcast, I feel like I'm like the biggest Logan Paul fan, as opposed to all the other wrestling fans that are like, get this guy out of here. But, I kind of did not like how Logan Paul was ultimately, overshadowed by Paul Heyman. It was kind of like a gift, but it wasn't a gift at the same time. When Logan Paul called out Jey Uso last week on Monday Night Raw, I knew that it was going to be the end of Logan Paul. It was too soon. It was way too soon. Jey Uso on a huge, he's so over. Absolutely so over right now. And with Logan Paul, not really being appreciated by the fans. And by all means, they have their reasons and stuff like that. But if you're trying to build up this guy, and then over and over and over again on Monday Night Raw, every single time someone cuts a promo against Logan Paul, there's always that, that YouTube star. You're just a YouTube star. You don't know what wrestling's all about. And it just kind of further kicks and digs on into Logan Paul's legacy, becoming a WWE superstar. And I feel like it's bad. I feel like that overall is bad for Logan Paul. But we got Paul Heyman instead of Paul. Paul Heyman going full heel. We're seeing full heel Paul Heyman saying, hey, y'all can keep your booze to yourself. He found Roman Reigns on an island of irrelevancy, and that is 1,010% correct. Who all remembered Roman Reigns before Paul Heyman got involved? Yeah, he was some guy that a lot of the WWE fans thought that, Roman Reigns was being forced down their throat. That babyface, and it sucks because Roman literally does have, he has skills. He's well run inside the ring, and he has a lot of family out there, obviously from the dynasty of the Inoue family, also the Fatus and the Maiveas. So if there's anybody that can bring that could bring Roman Reigns to relevancy, it's definitely going to be Paul Heyman. But I definitely liked how Paul Heyman pointed that out during during his promo. I thought that was pretty badass. He said the step 2. What's my step 2? My step 2 is going after the WWE World Heavyweights Championship. Obviously, Jey Uso at this point looks absolutely stunned. He looks, he kind of looked a little flustered. He looked a little scared, and kind of coming off a doubt, be like, okay, I prepared for Gunther ever since Saturday night's main event. He was this close away from defeating Gunther for that World Heavyweight Championship. Obviously, it did have to wait till WrestleMania 41. But at the end of the day, Jey Uso had that all that time to scout. And he's never defeated Seth Rollins cleanly within a match. And obviously heading into the main event, which we will talk about later, once again didn't really come to fruition. So Jey Uso, once again, coming out of, kind of being a little bit aggressive, being like, let's do it right now, Uso in Omaha, Nebraska, why not, let's do it here, and now, and then, Paul Heyman, scrumbles in the back, and he's like, oh, we got him, you know what I mean, like classic mastermind kind of brains behind the operation, and Seth Rollins is like, I don't want to be the guy that says, hey, I told you so, but I told you so. And for me, I was kind of like, then Paul Heyman goes on a rant about with Bron Breakker about everything that's going down. CM Punk and Roman Reigns lost against Seth Rollins, this, that, and the other. You are so privileged to witness the greatness of Seth Rollins. And it was it did its part, but at the same time, I was kind of like, all right, you're dragging it on there, Paul. Keep going. Okay, now it seems like we're kind of losing it here. Next, we have Penta taking on JD McDonough, and obviously, you see the Judgment Day get involved inside the match. You saw kind of Penta kind of. I'm a huge fan of Penta, 1,010%, but I actually am a huge fan of JD McDonough, and I feel like this was a chance for WWE to kind of put him on. Once when he kind of came back from that punctured lung injury in that War Raiders tag team match for the WWE World Tag Team Championships, he was relatively liked by the WWE Universe. He was very welcomed, and then when he made his way back, and then in the backstage banter with the Judgment Day, he was kind of looking around. He's like, dude, like, what's going on here? He kind of looked like a lost soul. But WWE straight up stamped it on him that he is, he's going to take his place and he's going to be a heel on the Judgment Day, which I kind of didn't like. I was kind of thinking about, out of the two people in the Judgment Day that probably I feel like they do not need to suffer once when this faction goes under. Not Liv Morgan, not Raquel Rodriguez, not Carlito, not Dominic Mysterio. It's got to be Finn Balor and JD McDonough. If they can literally go out there and be like, a straight up tag team, they have great chemistry together, 1,010%. They really honestly do not need the Judgment Day. And then, now that, Triple H Bolavec had JD McDonough ultimately come out here to take on Penta as as a heel. I understand, Dominic Mysterio is facing him at Backlash for that WWE Intercontinental Championship. But Penta, picking up the victory, I thought that was pretty cool. Obviously building up momentum toward his title shot. We have Sheamus defeating Austin Theory. Once again, Grayson Waller. When are we going to get this breakup, guys? We've been flirting with this breakup for so freaking long, and it's beginning to become troublesome. They were tag team in SmackDown. They won the WWE World Tag Team Championships last year at WrestleMania, which is cool and all. It's all great. It's all gravy, baby. Go ahead, whatever you guys want to depict it as, perspective wise. But I feel like Austin Theory, he was the last Vince McMahon guy. He won that Money in the Bank, and then it kind of faltered under, which kind of sucked. But Grayson Waller, I feel like, is bringing Austin Theory down. He's bringing Austin Theory down in so many ways, and it sucks because I love Austin Theory. I love the way he could possibly be a really big babyface in the world of WWE if they allow him to do so. So, obviously, we'll see what happens heading into Backlash. I feel like. But then again, we've been bantering and we've been speculating on this for about almost a year about A-Town Down Under breaking up. So every single time I think they're breaking up, they don't break up, and I look like I have my head on my arse and I'm like, oh crap, here we go again. But yeah, it was it is what it is. Becky Lynch comes out, coming out in flailing flying colors saying that Bayley, she's garbage, and Lyra Valkyria is recycling. And I gotta be honest, I don't like it. I really don't like this side of Becky. She looks fake. 1,010%. It's her coming out and ranting and being like that pissed off neighbor. Get off my lawn! It's not really that WWE. It's not what the man is supposed to be. You know what I mean? And I get it. I know whenever WWE has, when they have couples wrestling, like you've seen it with Maurice and The Miz. You've seen it with who's the other couple that came in? Oh God, I just saw that today. Oh God, I'm blanking right now. But there's so many. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, obviously, you guys know they are married. Obviously, they are, they have babies and stuff like that. They're a family. But it's just, if someone's a babyface in the family and if someone's a heel, it kind of seems a little, you've seen it with, the Street Profits. Montez Ford and, Bianca Belair. And it's, it's all right. It's all right. I want to see Bianca turn heel, but that's just me. All right, rapidly finishes out. We're running short on this segment, so we're going to speed things up a little bit. Io Sky defeat Roxanne Perez. Roxanne Perez, her attire was interesting. I thought automatically, I saw the stars. I saw the overall presentation of the production in her entrance. I thought of Cora Jade. I felt like maybe she was kind of paying homage to her best friend who recently got released from WWE. So that was that was pretty crazy. The match was great. The match was awesome, but it was ultimately Giulia got involved. The NXT superstars are absolutely running rampant over Monday Night Raw. Next, we have Otis taking on Rusev. How powerful do you want Rusev to look like? How much do you want him to look like Miro from AEW? When he comes back, and it's, I thought it was cool that Rusev came back. 1,010%. I thought, it was the right move for him. It was the right move for WWE. But then you look at the recent releases from WWE, and you're like, damn, being honest, dude, if you're doing that, what comes up must come down. And, if you sign some superstars, then obviously some of them have to be released. I would have took Braun Strowman over Miro for decades, for days, for years, for decades, for centuries. I like I said, I'm not trying to, throw shade at Rusev. But it just doesn't really end. The first day Rusev comes back for his full-time match, he bullies the Alpha Academy, Akira Tozawa, Otis, Maxine Dupree. Like, how relevant does that make you? Like, literally, where does that put you? Not in the Intercontinental Championship picture, not in the WWE World Heavyweight Championship picture, not at all. Rusev would probably be lucky enough to find himself in the WWE Men's Speed Championship match. But as of right now, obviously it's still young. So maybe it'll all come in fruition in the future. But as of right now, I don't really, not really a believer here. Pat McAfee and Gunther go face to face. Pat McAfee gasses up the Omaha, Nebraska crowd while Gunther is basically saying that, hey man, I'm ready for you. I'm preparing for you. Do not think I'm going to overestimate or underestimate you, for that matter. I feel like Goldberg is coming. I feel like he's going to be the reason of why Pat McAfee wins, and it's kind of crazy, but you did see Pat McAfee in College Game Day, and Goldberg as well. So it's maybe, I don't know. I just hope they do it well. I don't want Gunther buried because of another bad WWE promo or setup or anything of that matter. I just don't want Gunther to suffer because I feel like he is a great World Heavyweight Championship contender. He's a great top guy. He really is. And I know putting the belt on Jey was the right move, but Gunther, he needs to be in that championship picture. Anything short of the WWE Championship or back on that throne holding the World Heavyweight Championship would honestly kind of be a Lux, would not be good for him. So, I don't know. I just, hope for the best of Gunther. And in the main event, we have the World Heavyweight Championship match. Jey Uso defends his title against the Revolutionary, the Architect, Seth freaking Rollins, and it was a good match. It was a 5-star match. It was super badass. A lot of near falls. CM Punk coming out. Sami Zayn. It was bedlam. But at the end of the day, you had CM Punk cost Seth Rollins a chance to be the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. And, chairs all around. So CM Punk obviously has a huge axe to grind for one of two reasons. Two reasons, obviously. You had his best friend Paul Heyman stab him in the back to align himself with Seth freaking Rollins. And then you had him and Seth Rollins having a huge feud before, everything happened with WrestleMania and Roman Reigns. So we are in for a doozy. I want to see this match come to fruition. I feel like this was a nice spot for WWE, for a lot of fans being like, okay, who's going to challenge Jey? 9 times out of 10, you're going to get the answer, Seth Rollins. This was a great way to get that answer out of everyone's mouth. Be like, okay, so Seth, he did have his chance. He was screwed, yes, but now he's going ahead and handle all his fixtures over there with CM Punk. So now WWE can focus on Jey Uso becoming his own entity, becoming a visionary champion, becoming the World Heavyweight Champion without a lingering threat as of this new stable that was formed from Paul Heyman with Bron Breakker and Seth Rollins. So all in all, I feel like it was a great match. The ending did what it had to do to overall protect Jey Uso's World Heavyweight Championship picture, which by all means, I'm not trying to crap on Jey Uso saying that he's not a well-deserving champion. He is. He's so over with the fans right now, but as of right now, there are so many people who have a chance to knock on that door. I'm excited to find out who is going to be that next person. And we can definitely talk about it. All right, so we talked about some SmackDown. We talked about Raw. Now we're going to talk about some SmackDown. WWE SmackDown live from Des Moines, Iowa. We're going to talk about it. So grab your favorite Idaho. So grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite ice cold beverage. Join me here in about 25 seconds away. Do not go absolutely anywhere.